You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Today, a conversation with the Imam who performed the funeral prayer for the men who were shot at the Quebec City shooting. But first, some news headlines. Canadian monuments go green to commemorate the Quebec City Mosque shooting. Freedom Convoy 2022 to start vaccine mandate protests at Parliament Hill on Saturday. New report highlights the untold stories of Islamophobia in Canada. And royals from UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar among the guest list for the 2022 Beijing Olympics. And now, the details. Toronto's CN Tower, Niagara Falls, Calgary Tower, and other monuments and city halls across the country will light up green on January 29th. This is to mark the first annual National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia, a proclamation declared by the federal government last year. The commemoration spotlights the Quebec City Mosque attack, whose fifth anniversary is tomorrow. In 2017, the shooting at the Quebec City Mosque left 6 dead, 17 orphans, 6 widows, and 1 man with a lifelong disability. Around 2,000 trucks are expected to arrive in Ottawa tomorrow and jam-pack Parliament Hill. The group of truck drivers, who call themselves Freedom Convoy 2022, are protesting vaccine passports and fines, and the mandate that requires them to be fully vaccinated before crossing the border. Jason Laflache, who organized anti-lockdown protests in the past, told local media sources that despite the gridlock, there will be space for business and emergency vehicles to pass through. Some from Freedom Convoy 2022 plan to stay until the government reverses the vaccine mandates on truckers. Ottawa Police has warned the convoy to avoid criminal actions. Canadian Muslims face anti-Muslim microaggressions daily, stated a report released by Islamic Relief Canada. The report, called In Their Words, The Untold Stories of Islamophobia in Canada, features multiple testimonies of Muslims across Canada who have experienced Islamophobia. According to the report, the normalization of Islamophobia in Canada has impacted Muslims mentally and physically. It has also noted that Muslim women are more susceptible to being victimized. Some proactive steps to combat Islamophobia include establishing a national reporting hotline for hate crimes, strengthening hate crime legislation, and launching strategic public awareness campaigns about Muslims. More than 30 heads of states, governments, and international organizations will attend the opening of the Beijing Winter Olympics next week, China's foreign ministry announced. The list of visiting dignitaries include the royals from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan. The presence of these dignitaries comes despite a boycott by multiple Western nations, including the US, UK, and Canada, because of concerns about China's treatment of the predominantly Muslim Uyghur minorities. Beijing denies any wrongdoing and has termed the allegation of rights violations a political virus used by the West to malign China. And that's it for the news. Tomorrow is the National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. It's a story that brings a lot of distress to people, so if you feel distressed during this show, we recommend that you stop, or if you need to, you can call the hotline 1866-NASISA that is showing Nasiha, and we'll put it in the show description as well. On this day that we're commemorating, it's now 5 years, when a shooter walked into a mosque in Quebec City, killing 6 and injuring 5. The 6 who passed away were Ibrahima Barry, Mahmoudou Tanu Barry, Khaled Belkacemi, Abu Bakr Thabti, Abdul Karim Hassan, and Azadin Sufian. Today we have with us an Imam, Hassan Guillet, to ask him about the memories of that day. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Now, I am not in Quebec, and I'm just reading the names of those who passed away, and I'm actually almost crying. How was it for you to have to lead the tribute for the victims on that day 5 years ago?
It was and still and it will be forever a very terrible experience. It's 5 years ago, but for me, it's like it's happening today. I can never forget the sorrow and the anger and the surprise. We lived through that day, the ordeal. Nobody of us wanted to believe that it's happening here in Quebec or in Canada. So it's still a terrible memory and a terrible life experience. And regardless of what we say, regardless of what we do, none of us can bring back to a widow her fallen husband, or to an orphan his or her fallen father. But we have a duty of remembering these people and keeping their memory and their legacy alive.
You are an Imam, I believe, in Montreal, and the shooting happened in Quebec. How was it that you were brought into the funeral?
It happened, and I was selected to be the Imam. I was called by the brothers who are responsible for the mosque in Quebec City to bear that burden, which was very, very, very terrible burden. Maybe due to my skills of communications, or maybe my knowledge of the three languages, Arabic, French, and English, because these are the languages I spoke in the funeral. Or maybe it's just a decision of God, Allahu Alam. But it was a very, very difficult burden. And I hope that I did what I could in a way to serve the community, and in a way to pay tribute and to honor the victim, and to help healing the wounds of the families.
Do you remember any particular message that you shared on that day?
There was a lot of messages, and many of them were circulated around the world, because it was very internationally broadcast, that message. First, that we as citizens, we are citizens like everybody else in this country. We have the same duties, the same like everybody else, and we have the same rights like everybody else. And for sure, I paid a tribute to the victims. And in that speech, the same thing, I insisted that the killer himself is not the only responsible for the killing. There was the media, the certain politicians, the hate propaganda machine that was working to split the country, and to incite people to hate each other. And the hatred they were propagating led to the bloodshed in the mosque. So instead of concentrating on the killer himself only, we should look beyond, and we should stop the hate machine.
I remember that the Prime Minister, I believe, attended the funeral, and there were candlelight vigils, an outpouring of support. Did that help with the grieving process for the victims?
It was a combination of things. I still remember it was the biggest crowd I had in my sermons, and I've been Imam for a long time. In the hall, we were around 6,000 people, including the Prime Minister of Canada, the Prime Minister of Quebec, many members of cabinet, including Ahmed Hussein, who was the Minister of Immigration at the time, many ministers from Quebec, many members of the House of Commons, the Quebec Assembly of Quebec, the National Assembly of Quebec, media. Definitely, this support, this solidarity helped. And the vigil, as you are saying, the vigil around the country, not only in Quebec, it helped. And during these 5 years, we keep receiving messages of support and solidarity. Yes, it helps, but we are seeing a lot of solidarity, a lot of nice words, nice speeches, but we need actions. We need actions to stop hatred, to stop Islamophobia, and to stop discrimination, and to protect citizens in this country, because as you said, we are citizens like everybody else, and we deserve to have our place under the sun. We deserve to have a place on this earth because we are members of this society, and this society is our society.
And this might be a bit of a silly question. I'm sure as an imam, you've led tons of funerals, janazas as we call them. Did you feel especially nervous to have the Prime Minister and members of Parliament and the media and 6,000 people there?
It might be naive what I will say. The only audiences I thought about were the 17 orphans and 6 widows who were with the crowd. I didn't think about Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Couillard or anybody else. My attention was toward the families and many of our brothers and sisters who were in the crowd, who were in the mosque at the time of the killing. Especially, I said some words which were very, very heavy, very loud when I said that the killer himself is a victim. So some people might misunderstood what I said. They might have thought that I'm equating the victims with the killer, which was not the case. I was just saying the same way our martyrs, our shaheed, were victims of the bullet of that killer. The killer himself was a victim of the words and the hate propaganda he was subjugated to, who transformed him from being a teenager to be a killer. And at the same time, he stole the lives of our brothers and the lives of our sisters. He stole the life of his parents as well, and he destroyed his life and the life of his parents.
You said that you hoped that your words helped alleviate some of the burden and with the healing. How are the families doing now, 5 years later?
Well, they are going about their lives. As I said, nothing will replace a fallen husband or a fallen father. Definitely the memory of the fallen victims, the shaheed, will remain. But nevertheless, lives continue. So that the orphans were very young at the time, they are growing. I know some of them. One of them is lawyer, another is administrator, another one. So it's the ones who were teenagers at the time, now they are young adults and they're working, they're building their lives. Some of them are getting married. The ones who were very young at the time, I remember I visited the families at the time. There were some boys, some children who were 1 year or 2 years old. So now the one who was 1 year old now is 6 years old.
And unfortunately, we have to leave it there. But thank you very much. I can't imagine what it's like to have to talk about this over and over again. But we thank you for your graciousness in coming, and we pray that God helps the families and gives ease to those in the grave. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And please, everybody, keep our martyrs in your prayer and your dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. You've been watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Stay safe and God bless.